welcome to Like Maria. Today Maria's going to talk to us about the differences between A-level English language and A-level English literature. And this is a video for anyone who's currently facing that choice as to which subject to go for. So Maria, can you outline them for us? What are the sort of key differences we should know about?
Hi Caroline. Yes, absolutely. So real key differences are literature is about literature, about reading books, reading plays, reading poems and commenting on them and analysing them. So real analysis of a text in front of you, looking at specific quotations, but also stepping back from the text and looking at the bigger issues surrounding the text. So it might be the biographical details of the author, it might be the context of the time and the political context of the time, and things like that, and just writing about texts that have been produced over the years and interpreting them. Also a little bit of literary theory there, which people may not be familiar with. At A-level, we introduce students to reading other people's opinions about texts and analysing those opinions and taking them on board and using them in their essays. Obviously, lots of essay writing in English literature. English language, on the other hand, I like to think of as rather more scientific. Deals with texts, but on the whole, it deals with texts that are non-fiction texts. And that, by that I mean things like advertisements, letters, diaries, factual information leaflets, and also, interestingly, spoken language. So language as it is being used in the world. We often study in English language transcriptions of conversations or transcriptions of TV, reality shows and things like that. Maybe something you've heard on the radio or a podcast or something like that. So very much language, living language. Within that, we also look at diversity and different ways of using language that are influenced by where you live, regional accents and dialects, gender issues, how men and women speak differently, and for example, occupational language, all sorts of different issues around language that are of great interest and importance in the modern world. Just to add, usually on most English language courses, there is a small opportunity to do a little bit of creative writing, and we also add in there to the mix a child language acquisition module, which is about studying how children learn. So really fascinating, interesting element there.
So from the bit that you've just said, it doesn't sound hugely like GCSE, but will students find it recognisable?
So the English literature, absolutely, to some extent more of the same, but at a very greater depth and with a great deal of independent work and analysis and interpretation there. That's fairly straightforward and it is very recognisable. English language, on the other hand, I would say is very different from GCSE English language. It is very scientific, as I've said. You've got child language analysis there. There's no real element of comprehension. It's much more a focused grammatical study of texts. And then standing back and looking at how texts work in the world. And as I've already said, looking at transcriptions, which will be something quite unfamiliar to students. Also, there is a great deal of terminology there, and I'm not going to pull on any punches about that. It is quite tricky to begin with. In those early months, you have to be committed to revisiting quite a lot of grammar and learning a lot of new terminology surrounding all different areas such as pragmatics, phonology, things like that. So it is quite different in the early days.
Sounds really exciting though, really interesting. Now, so you've mentioned a few different things. You mentioned, for example, creative writing with the language. Is that a coursework option, or do the courses have coursework?
Yes, absolutely. And you're spot on there, Caroline, with the creative writing. There's a small element in the coursework, which is 20%. I think 10% is for most boards, it's about 10% creative writing. You can do a piece of fiction, but most students opt for a factual piece. So they might do a journalistic piece or something. With the literature, again, 20%, it tends to be an extended essay of about 3,000 words, and it tends to be on a couple of texts that you will have studied independently with some teacher support, but real opportunity there for your own ideas to flourish. With the English language, as well as the original writing, there is also a coursework element, usually called something like investigation, depending on the exam board. And it's about going out into the world and collecting data and analysing it, and writing a little mini research project, really, which most students really, really enjoy because it's a chance to see language in action.
Can you do both of these subjects, and would a university approve of that, or do they prefer you to do one subject over the other?
That's a really good question, and one I get asked a lot, actually. Yes, you can do both. Obviously, it depends on your college and what is offered there. Different areas in the country, different colleges have a different history of offering both. Some schools indeed don't actually do English language at all, so you'd have to do it outside of college. Universities, again, it's quite an interesting one. Some traditional universities, if you were applying for law or history or something like that, might favour English literature because it has a longer history of being an academic subject. And they sort of know about the essay writing and critical skills that it brings. English language, obviously, if you're going off to do linguistics or a foreign language, it's absolutely perfect for supporting that study, and universities will absolutely welcome that. Having said that, I have had students go off to do a variety of degrees at the very top universities, including Oxbridge, and they have studied English language and it has been well received. So my advice really would be, if you're looking for a specific course, do read the prospectus of the universities, and if it's not clear, get in touch with your school, college, careers department, or have a chat, email one of the admissions tutors, and they will be able to say exactly what it is that is required for their course.
Brilliant, thank you ever so much. And just finishing off, Maria, if you had to pick one, which would be your favourite?
If I had to pick, well, actually, when I studied in my degree, I did a combined degree in literature and language. So I really would sit on the fence there. I love teaching both. They are quite different, a different experience at the classroom. English language, brilliant in terms of being up to date with the modern world and changing language. But of course, the literature is, it's always a pleasure to read a book. So really couldn't answer that, Caroline, sorry. Go with what you love is my advice to the students out there grappling with this choice.
That's brilliant. That's really helpful, Maria. Thank you ever so much for just telling us a bit about those two courses. And we hope you found that useful at home. Do subscribe for more content, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.